Good morning. My name's Ryan Littlestone from forexflow.live. This week we're seeing volatility drop down a touch, if you can call it that. We're only moving in sort of 100 pip clips instead of the 200, 300 pip clips at the moment. So that's a sign that volatility and some form of normality is returning to markets. So what we've had now, just to do a quick review, is we've had central banks and governments now throwing the kitchen sink at the virus problem, the potential economic fallout. And so the markets, it's become calmed a bit that things aren't going to collapse in the financial world. Now, what that's done is we've seen obviously big shifts around the different asset classes. So we saw stocks really sold off heavily. That seems to have found a little bit of a bottom, if you like, at the moment. Bonds are now, with all the QE going on, so the flows are going into that. We're seeing bond yields still on the low side. But overall, the market has calmed down a bit. So while we've taken out a lot of the volatility, there's still quite a bit there. Now, one pair I've been looking at is the pound versus the dollar cable, as we like to call it. Now, this really took a beating. It was up around 130 and got slammed all the way down, to 114. I think it was around about the low. And we've seen it recover all the way back up to 124, or nearly enough to 125. Now, if we look at the charts here, and I'm looking at the weekly chart at the moment, we can see that big spike lower, and we can see the bounce back up again. Now, a lot of that was down to this supposed lack of US dollar funding in the markets, across countries. So countries and institutions scrabbled around to buy the dollar, and we saw these moves pretty much reflected across any pair that was against the dollar. Those seem to have abated now. We've got all this liquidity coming back in from central banks. So we've seen a bounce there, and now we're sort of, again, getting back to some form of normality. Now, in this pair, I started buying it when it hit 120. That was a level I've been looking at for quite a while. You can see it on the chart there, the series of lows going back to sort of 2019, 2018, 2016. And those are the levels that I was looking at long term. But obviously with this big boost of unease and uncertainty, that didn't really stand up too much. So I scaled in a trade. I decided to go for a more longer term trade, scaling in from 120, and I scaled in all the way down to 115 at various levels. I've taken some profit up on the way up. I took it back up at 123, around about 123, 50, 60. I'm happy to run this trade a bit longer because I do feel that there is some signs that the immediate panic is now over, and then we're going to start looking forward to what the real economic damage is. So as I've been talking about in our trading room, we're looking at phases of what's happened. We've had the big fear, the big panic that came with the virus. That seems to be ebbing away. Now we get into a longer phase, which is looking at economies to see how bad this is going to hit. Now, we can't judge that with any surety at the moment, or any certainty, because countries are still in the grip of this virus. There's still cases, there's still deaths, there's still lockdowns. So it's really going to be about watching the clock and seeing how far this travels before restrictions get removed and things start to get back to normal. The longer things go, unfortunately, the worse it's going to get. So for the next few months, we're going to be seeing worse data. And what we're going to do is we're going to see perhaps a period right now of consolidation in currencies, and then we'll start being affected by the economic fallout as we move along. Then hopefully things will come back to some form of normality. Then we'll get back to the central bank trading and when they're going to start removing all this stimulus. So for now, really, you've got to look at the volatility. Be careful with the volatility. We're still in it, but we're looking for signs that that's calming down further. That's all we can say at the moment. So I wish you luck with your trading.